Rain tapped softly on the glass dome high above the grand hall of Nicera, the droplets catching the flickering light of chandeliers that swayed gently with the air current. Inside, alien nobles shimmered in silks and translucent jewels. Their laughter echoing like music spun from arrogance. Every movement was measured, every word rehearsed, as if they lived in a theater where only the highest survived. Valari stood alone at the edge of the platform. Her silver skin was marred by faint bruises, the elegant hem of her once noble dress torn and stained. She had not spoken in hours. There was nothing left to say. Her family's crest had been stripped from her robes, leaving her exposed before the most powerful of the noble houses. "She doesn't even hold herself upright anymore," mocked one tall, four-eyed lord, his voice sweet and poisonous. "The Starline line ends in disgrace," added another, sipping from a crystal cup filled with golden liquor. They laughed as if cruelty were a game. Valari didn't cry. Her tears had run dry days ago when the sentence was handed down. Her family had been falsely accused of harboring dissenters, rebels from the lower moons. She knew it was a lie. Everyone did. But lies served the rich when spoken often enough. Now her mother rotted in a prison cell. Her brother had vanished. And Valari had become the last target. "Take her away," the judge had said. "No trial, no right to defend, just a command." Two guards moved toward her, bulky Bracari with gray skin and armor that hissed as they walked. They grabbed her by the arms. She didn't resist. She had no strength left. As they pulled her from the platform, nobles began clapping slowly, mock applause, a parade of humiliation. And that was when she saw him. Among the crowd near the tall entry pillars stood a human, alone, not dressed in royal fashion, not laughing. Just standing there, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Valari's eyes met his, and for a heartbeat, time held still. He was not like the others. He wasn't a soldier or a noble's pet. There was no collar on his neck. No leash. He was just there, watching. She stumbled as the guards yanked her forward. Her knees hit the cold stone with a sharp crack, and more laughter followed. But he didn't laugh. Instead, he began walking, straight toward her. The crowd hushed. Even the music paused, like it too was unsure what to do. The human stepped between her and the guards, planting himself like a mountain. "What is this?" one of the Bracari growled. "Step aside, Terran." "She's not your toy," the man said calmly. A murmur spread through the crowd. "This is a formal matter," barked a noble. "You will not interfere." The human didn't flinch. "She's not an object. You've already taken everything from her. You won't take her dignity too." Valari looked up at him, her heart thudding in her chest. His voice was low, but every word was clear, ringing through the air like truth. She didn't know him, but something in her wanted to. He held out his hand. She hesitated. Her fingers trembled. No one had offered her anything since her world collapsed. She reached up. His hand was warm, strong, and careful as he pulled her to her feet. He didn't rush her. He didn't look down on her. He simply helped. "What's your name?" she whispered, her voice barely there. "Rael," he said. She repeated it softly. "Rael." The nobles watched in disbelief. "She's broken," Duke Thorin called from above. "Let the Terran keep his little prize. She's no use to us now." Rael took off his coat and placed it gently over Valari's shoulders. "Come on," he said. Together they walked out. No one stopped them. Not one dared. And for the first time since her fall, Valari felt something begin to rise inside her. Hope. The air outside the grand hall was cooler, laced with the scent of wet stone and distant lightning. Rael guided Valari through the quiet streets of Nicera's upper tier, away from the lights, the judgmental eyes, and the bitter voices that still echoed faintly behind them. Valari clutched his coat tighter around her, her fingers brushing the soft inner lining. It smelled like earth and something faintly smoky, like a campfire after rain. comforting, real. She glanced sideways at him, uncertain if this was still part of a dream. No one had stood up for her. No one. And yet here was this strange human, walking beside her like it meant something. "You didn't have to do that," she said, her voice barely above the rain. "I know," Rael replied. "But someone had to." She blinked at him. "You don't even know who I am." "I know what they did to you. That was enough." Valari didn't speak again for a while. Her legs ached, her mind fogged with exhaustion, but she kept walking beside him, drawn by something she couldn't name. Not safety, though he made her feel safer than she had in weeks. It was something deeper, gentler. The way he looked at her without pity, without lust or cruelty, just care. They stopped at a narrow building nestled between merchant towers. Rael keyed in a passcode, and the door opened with a quiet hum. His home was small but warm. The floors were made of real wood, the walls lined with shelves holding books, tools, and curious earth artifacts. A small heater glowed in the corner, casting amber light across a worn couch and a low table covered in teacups and scattered notes. "Sit," Rael said softly. Valari obeyed without thinking. The couch sighed under her weight, and she let out a shaky breath. Her arms wrapped around herself. She had barely eaten in 2 days. Her skin still hurt from the guard's grip. Her pride was shattered. Rael returned from a side room holding a steaming mug. "It's not Nisaran crystal wine, but it'll warm you up," he said with a faint smile, offering the drink. She took it with both hands. The scent of the brew was sweet and slightly spicy. "You're not like them," she said, studying him. "You don't act like the others on this planet." He shrugged and sat across from her. "I'm not here to impress the nobles. I came with the envoy fleet a few years ago, stayed to help with reconstruction efforts after the Second Rift War, built things, fixed things. Then I saw how deep the rot goes in their so-called peace." Valari sipped the drink slowly. It warmed her throat, her chest, even the empty space inside her that had been cold for so long. "They destroyed my family," she whispered. "Framed us, stripped our names. My mother, she's still locked away. My brother, Heron, vanished, trying to reach the outer moons." Rael's expression tightened, the faintest crease forming between his brows. "You want to find them?" Valari's grip on the cup tightened. "More than anything." "Then we will," he said simply. She looked at him, confused. "Why are you helping me? You owe me nothing." Rael leaned forward slightly, elbows on. His knees. "Maybe I'm tired of watching good people get crushed. Maybe I just saw someone who needed a hand. Or maybe—" He paused. "Maybe I saw something in you worth saving." Valari's breath caught. No one had ever said anything like that to her, not even before the fall. Her voice came out shakier than she liked. "They called me a traitor, a disgrace." "They lied," he said, eyes steady on hers. The silence between them grew, not awkward, but thick with emotion. Valari felt her heart pulse differently, slower, heavier, a sensation like a forgotten song rising in her chest. "You're strange, Rael," she said softly. "Strange, but kind." He chuckled. "I get that a lot." For the first time in days, Valari smiled. Just a little. Just enough. Rael stood and motioned toward a curtained side room. "You can rest in there. It's not much, but it's quiet. And the sheets are clean." She rose on trembling legs and paused in front of him. Her eyes searched his face. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was low but filled with feeling. "I thought I had nothing left, but tonight, you gave me something back." "You never lost it," Rael said gently. "They just tried to make you forget." She turned and stepped into the room. The curtain fell behind her with a soft swish. Rail stared at it for a long time before he sat back down, staring into the firelight. And far across the city, in the shadows beyond the reach of noble law, someone watched Rail's apartment from a high rooftop, dark eyes following the light in the window with interest. The morning came soft and slow. Pale blue light slipped through the slats of the shutters, touching everything with a quiet stillness. Valari stirred beneath the thick blanket Rail had left for her. For a moment, she didn't move. She simply lay there, wrapped in warmth she hadn't felt in weeks. Not warmth from the blanket, but from safety, from him. She rose and stepped barefoot into the main room. Rail was already awake, seated at the table with a strange device in front of him, half mechanical, half crystalline. He looked up as she approached, his eyes warm. "Sleep okay?" he asked. Valari nodded, brushing her fingers through her tangled hair. "Better than I thought I could." He gestured toward a plate with sliced fruit and toasted bread. "You should eat." She sat across from him, hunger gnawing at her now that the fear had faded. As she tasted the food, her eyes flicked toward the window. The sky beyond was clouded but calm. No airships, no soldiers, no nobles whispering lies. "I want to do more than survive," she said suddenly. Rail looked at her, his gaze steady. "I want to find my mother. I want to know what happened to Heron," she continued. "But I don't want to run anymore. I want to stand again, like you helped me last night. I want to help myself this time." A slow smile touched his lips. "Then we start today." Valari felt the strength in those words settle deep inside her. Her fingers curled around the edge of the table. "Do you know where they keep political prisoners?" "I know someone who might," Rail said. He stood and walked to a locked cabinet, entering a passcode. Inside were papers, maps, and a small communication disk. "She's not exactly friendly, but she owes me a favor." He activated the disk, and a few seconds later, a flickering image appeared. A tall woman with skin the color of green storm glass and glowing orange eyes. "Rail," the hologram said, her voice sharp but not cold. "Haven't heard from you in a while. Need parts or trouble?" "Trouble," he said. "We're looking for someone. 2 people, actually. Valari Starline's mother and brother." The woman arched an eyebrow. "Valari Starline? The disgraced noble?" Valari stepped into view. "Yes, that's me." A beat passed, then the woman sighed. "You know the risk of digging into house trials, right? The nobles will bury you both if they get wind of it." "We're not asking for the spotlight," Rail said. "Just information." The woman hesitated, then nodded. "I'll send coordinates. There's an old records node beneath the trade. Spire, pre-cleansing files. If anything still exists, you'll find traces there." The transmission ended. Valari exhaled. "Trade Spire? Isn't that where the market guilds are based?" Rail nodded. "And crawling with watchers. We'll need to go carefully." They prepared quickly. Valari took a worn cloak Rail offered and tied her hair back. She still looked fragile, but something had changed. Her eyes held a quiet fire. As they stepped into the alley outside, Rail glanced at her. "You okay?" She smiled faintly. "No, but I will be." They moved through back streets, avoiding cameras and noble patrols. Rail led her through old maintenance tunnels and half-collapsed alleys forgotten by most of the upper tier. Finally, they reached the underlevel of the trade spire, a labyrinth of steel and shadow. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the distant hum of energy lines. Faint lights flickered overhead, casting uneven patterns on the ground. They found the records terminal behind a sealed wall panel. Rail pried it open with practiced hands, revealing a glowing interface. "Cover me," he said. Valari stood guard, her eyes sharp as he worked. Minutes passed, then Rail froze. "Found something," he whispered. "Your mother was moved 3 months ago. Blacklisted transport, no official logs. But here, this tracking code, She's still alive, somewhere off-grid. Valari's breath caught. Her knees nearly gave, but she steadied herself. "And my brother?" she asked. Rael's expression darkened. "There's a death tag." "No." Valari shook her head. "No, they lie. They could have faked it. They want to erase him, just like me." Rael looked at her and nodded. "Then we don't accept it until we see the truth." Just then, static blared through the interface. A warning flashed. Unauthorized. "Access detected. We have to go," Rael said quickly. They fled the chamber as heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor behind them. Noble guards, armed and fast. Valari and Rael ducked into an old waste chute, sliding down into the city's lower levels, landing hard in an old drainage basin. They panted, soaked and bruised, but alive. Valari laughed, breathless and wild. "I can't believe we did that," Rael grinned back. "Believe it. You're standing again." And in the darkness of the lower tier, as danger closed in from all sides, something unspoken sparked between them. A bond deeper than survival. A promise. They would not stop. Not until the truth was theirs. They stayed hidden for 2 days. Down in the abandoned lower levels of the city, where only rust and silence lived, Valari and Rael found shelter in a forgotten tunnel chamber. The air was damp and smelled faintly of old oil and stone. No patrols came this deep. Only the hum of ancient pipes reminded them that the world above still spun. Rael patched a small power cell into the wall and lit a few soft lamps. It gave the space a warm orange glow, enough to see each other's faces, enough to remind them they were still alive. Valari sat cross-legged on a blanket, staring at the worn data card they had stolen. "It still doesn't feel real," she whispered. "My mother, alive, but taken somewhere no one talks about." Rael sat beside her, leaning back on his elbows. That's how they do it. They silence without killing. Lock someone away so deep, no one remembers they were ever. "Here." She looked at him. "You talk like you've seen it before." "I have," he said quietly. "My father tried to stand against them too. A human worker with too many ideas. One day he vanished. I was 15. No trial, no message. Just gone." Valari's fingers brushed his. A soft, wordless comfort. Her touch was light, but it steadied him. "I'm sorry," she said. He shook his head. "We can still fight. That's what matters." They slept close that night, not touching, but not apart. The silence between them wasn't empty. It held something new, something building. Trust, understanding. A closeness born not of need, but of choice. The next morning, Rael awoke to find Valari already dressed, standing by the small metal grate that looked out into a cracked shaft of light. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice firm. "We can't sneak forever. We need help. Real help. Voices that still believe in justice." Rael raised an eyebrow. "You mean the Circle?" Valari nodded. "My father used to speak with them, quietly, carefully. They were dreamers then. Maybe they still are." Rael stood and began packing supplies. If anyone's left, they're ghosts. But ghosts might still be able to stir the living. They climbed through abandoned walkways and dusty passages, reaching the mid-levels where the old civic halls stood, forgotten, cracked, and half swallowed by vines and time. Inside the ruined chamber of the old library, they waited. Valari took a risk and activated a beacon pulse, an old noble distress code, one her father had used once to contact the Circle in secret. It was a gamble. If nobles found it, they'd be arrested. Or worse. But someone answered. That night, a cloaked figure entered the library's shadowed doorway. His face was old, lined with years of struggle. His eyes burned with fierce memory. "You're Valari Starline," he said simply. "I am. And you've come seeking the truth. I've come to free my mother." to uncover what really happened to my brother, and to make the nobles regret what they've done." He looked at Rael. "And you?" Rael met his gaze. "I'm with her. The old man smiled. "Then welcome. You're not alone anymore." They followed him to a hidden refuge beneath the city's central archive. There the circle had rebuilt itself. Scholars, healers, former guards, even a few defected nobles. All hiding, all waiting for a spark. Valari and Rael brought that spark. She stood before them and told her story. Of her trial, her family's fall, the lies that swallowed truth, the cruelty of those who laughed as she was dragged away. But she also spoke of Rael, the human who had offered her his coat when she shivered, his food when she was hungry, his hand when she had nothing left. "I stood again because of him," she said softly, "and now I will not kneel." The circle responded with quiet awe. Some wept, others clenched fists. Hope had lived too long in silence, but now it stirred again. "We have one chance," the old leader said. "There's a gala 3 nights. From now, the nobles will gather at the Citadel Hall. They believe their power is untouchable." Valari's eyes narrowed. "Then we touch it," he nodded. "There's a secure data vault inside. It holds the original Starline files, names, charges, false confessions, all of it." Rael stepped forward. "If we leak it, they fall," the old man said simply. That night, Valari stood by the balcony edge of their temporary hideout, staring out at the glowing towers above. Rael joined her, silent. She turned to him. "You've done so much," she whispered. "So have you." She stepped closer. "If we die in 3 days, I want you to know, I don't regret any of this." Rael smiled just a little. "Even the drainage chute?" She laughed, soft and bright, her eyes sparkling in the dark. "Even that." There was a pause. Then she touched his cheek, and this time, he didn't pull away. Their lips met, slow and warm, not rushed, but real. A kiss not of desperation, but of something blooming, even in ruin. A beginning, born in the ashes of a fall. And 3 days later, they would storm the citadel together. The night of the gala arrived, cloaked in silver light and false laughter. Inside the Citadel Hall, the nobles gathered beneath crystal arches and shimmering banners. Music floated through the air, elegant and hollow. They wore robes lined with gems, masks of polished bone, and smiles carved from arrogance. To them, tonight was another celebration of their own untouchable rule. They didn't know ghosts walked among them. Valari moved through the crowd like one of them, her gown sleek, her mask noble, her steps trained. Rael walked beside her, disguised as her escort, his stance proud, his eyes sharp. Beneath their clothing, small tech patches pulsed with stolen codes and ancient circle signals. At exactly the right moment, a soft chime echoed in their earpieces. Tiu. Vault was open. They slipped away from the gala under the pretense of needing air. No one stopped them. No one looked twice. Who would suspect a Starline daughter returned from disgrace and her silent, obedient human companion? They descended into the belly of the citadel, passing through silent marble halls and gilded lifts, past guards, past security fields, every move practiced, every path planned. When they reached the vault door, Rael pressed his palm against the hidden reader. Click. The locks disengaged. Inside, rows of data crystals shimmered like captured stars. Everyone held secrets, proof, names, crimes wiped clean from public view. Valari stepped forward, her hand trembling as she slid a crystal from its slot. Her mother's record, her brother's file, her own charges, false, all of them. I was right, she breathed. They destroyed us to protect their lies. Rael nodded. Let's show the world. He handed her the signal drive. a direct link to the circle's satellite feed. She slid it into the vault's relay. Light bloomed. Data spilled. The truth began its journey across every screen in the city, every comm device, every hidden node. In moments, thousands of files were unleashed. The nobles didn't know it yet, but their time was ending. But just as Valari turned to leave, an alarm blared. She froze. "No! We were supposed to have more time!" "Backup protocol," Rael growled. They detected the signal burst. Footsteps pounded above them. Voices shouted. Rael pulled Valari behind, a column just as two guards entered. He moved fast, disabling one with a flashblade and disarming the other with a sharp elbow. Valari grabbed the guard's weapon and fired a stun pulse. They dropped, silent. "We go now," Rael said. "Run!" They raced upward, weaving through the gilded maze of the citadel as chaos erupted behind them. Nobles shrieked as feeds around. Them flickered, first with static, then with truth. Names, crimes, families. The crowd turned into a storm of panic and fury. The guards couldn't stop it. Outside, Circle members had already begun to stir the streets. People gathered, humans and aliens alike, some crying, others shouting. Screens above plazas displayed Valari's face, her voice speaking to the city. They tried to bury us in silence, but we remember, and we will not kneel. When Valari and Rael finally emerged from the citadel, the air was filled with chants. Not just protest, support. She lives. She's back. Down with the lords. She stood tall, Rael beside her, bruised but burning with pride. In the days that followed, the noble houses fractured. Some fled, others begged mercy. A new council formed, built from Circle leaders, former workers, ex-guards. Valari refused any throne, but remained as voice and symbol. A noble no longer chained by birth, but chosen by the people. And Rael? He stayed beside her, not as a servant, not as a protector, but as a partner. They walked the rebuilt halls of the old library hand in hand, watched over the city from towers no longer gilded in lies, and kissed under the open sky. No masks, no fear. One evening, as the stars returned above them, Valari pressed her head to his shoulder. "You gave me more than freedom," she whispered. "You gave me the strength to stand," Rael smiled. "And you gave me a reason to fight." She turned to face him, her eyes full of light. "What if we stop fighting for a night?" He pulled her close. "Only if we start dreaming instead." That night, no nobles laughed, but the people did. And love, born from ruin, raised in rebellion, flourished in the heart of two who had once stood alone.